Chapter 2, A Good Day. I blinked my eyes open. The dome was bathed in warm pink light. It was morning, and there was something heavy on my chest.
Meow.
That something was Leo. He was sitting on me.
Meow.
He said again, more loudly. I understood a little cat, and that meant I'm hungry. Okay, I guess you want breakfast, I said. Satisfied that I was finally awake, he leapt off me with a swish of his tail, landing with a soft thud on the floor. I stood up and yawned, walking over to the window. The landscape stretched out in varying shades of dusty red as far as I could see. The low-hanging sun was a small dot against a pink sky with wispy blue clouds. Sunrise on Mars was magical. Just beyond the window was our backyard. The swooping craters where we'd spent hours playing outside while wearing our environmental suits. The lawn chairs and barbecue grill cobbled together from parts Darby had scavenged from old machines. Now, the grill didn't work, of course. There wasn't enough oxygen in the atmosphere to light a fire, but Darby loved to pose for digipics next to it, wearing his environmental suit. He was goofy like that. Memes said the only thing missing was grass. Phineas explained it was a plant that you grew and cut and then grew again and cut. It didn't make much sense. Off to the side of our yard was the garage where we stored our two rovers, and next to that was the docking station where the robot-controlled supply ship from Earth that came every 2 years could connect to the settlement. I was already looking forward to the chocolate it would bring. Something caught my eye. A blinking light was moving slowly across the horizon. It was probably a rover from one of the other countries. It was always a little scary to think how close the other settlements were to us. I sometimes wondered what they looked like, and as I'd never seen them, we weren't allowed to go past the little cemetery on the edge of our territory. It was far too dangerous. There was a soft ringing in the distance. It was the meal chime. Salty Bill would be setting breakfast out now. After that would be morning chores, lessons, lunch, and afternoon chores, free time, supper, evening chores, and finally bed. And the next morning, we would wake up and start the same routine all over again. Cy liked to say a boring day on Mars was a good day. We better get moving, Leo, I said. Yums. It was a baby word that I had used for food, and so now I used it on Leo. He knew that word and turned toward me. But before I could take a step, it happened. A glowing round object hurled across the sky, a white-hot tail of light streaking behind it. It crashed far away, waves of bright light exploding around it like a halo. Leo darted under the couch right before the room began to shake. All around me, the room rocked wildly. I tumbled to the ground. Across the room, the desk holding the communications digislate rattled, and the chair in front of it tipped over with a loud crash. Papers on the desk spilled across the floor, and a locker banged open. I decided to stay where I was. It seemed like the safest thing to do. And then, as suddenly as it had started, it was over. Everything was still. I crawled to the window and looked out. A plume of red dust was rising as if it had been kicked up by whatever had crashed into it. The question was, what had crashed? It had looked like a ship, but not like any ship I had ever seen. It was too round, it was too glowing, it was too otherworldly, too alien. Feet pounded up the stairs. Cy burst into the room, worry etched into the lines of his face. He must have been in the middle of shaving. He had green shaving cream on one cheek. Are you hurt? He demanded. I shook my head and then remembered. Leo! I cried, looking around. Scrambling down onto my hands and knees, I peered under the couch. Leo was curled into a tight loaf and stared back at me. I tugged him out, checking him over. He seemed fine. Then people started to run into the room. Darby and Eliana and Trey and Flossie and Vera and Albie. Albie looked half awake, his ball cap on backward. Sit rep, Cy barked. It was short for situation report, and it was his way of asking what had happened. Something crashed, I said, pointing out the window. I think it was an alien ship. Everyone looked at me as if I was an alien. Everyone except for Trey. He and I had always been fascinated by aliens and monsters. We had watched every digireel in our collection that featured them. Alien? Trey asked, his eyes widening. I nodded. Bell, Cy said, shaking his head. There's no such thing as aliens. Now, technically, he was right. We had colonized the moon and had begun to settle Mars, and in all that time, we had not encountered alien life. But I knew aliens existed. Why wouldn't there be something else besides us out here? It just made sense. There were hundreds of billions of galaxies. Surely one of them had intelligent life. Maybe even alien cats. Neems ran in, carrying her portable med kit. She was wearing her bathrobe, and her short gray hair was wet and plastered to her head. What happened? She asked urgently. Something crashed, Flossie said. He thinks it was an alien ship, Trey added. It was definitely an alien ship, I said. Meems pushed her way forward with her med kit, her pale eyes filled with worry. Did you hit your head, Belle? She asked, her hand in my hair, feeling for bumps. No, I said, shaking her off. I'm fine. But this silly talk about aliens and I saw the ship. Describe what you saw, she said, like I was describing symptoms. She was our doctor, after all. And so I did. I described the circle of light, the bright white tail, the explosion, how everything shook, and how Leo was terrified. I see, she said, and looked up at Cy. Cy was rubbing his gray beard, which he did when he was trying to puzzle something out. There were still bits of shaving cream on his face, but he didn't seem to notice. Sounds like a meteorite, Eliana said. She was wearing her usual cargo shorts and t-shirt. She liked to wear shorts because she was in and out of environmental suits all day and got hot. But it glowed, I said. Well, that's what meteors do when they enter the atmosphere, she explained. I'm pretty sure one crashed when you said you'd marry me, peanut butter, Darby teased, winking at his wife. Or maybe that was my heart exploding from happiness. She rolled her eyes at him. Really, Jelly? Now, peanut butter and Jelly were their silly pet names for each other. They had fallen in love on the moon. Cy said he'd recruited them to Mars as a package deal. Ileana was super smart. She had helped design the lunar settlement. And Darby called himself a jack-of-all-trades. Let me through, a voice called loudly. Phineas was pushing up to the front with his cane. He was old and moved slowly, but he had a way of making himself heard. He walked to the window and stared out at the plume of dust. Well, whatever it was, it landed near the French settlement, Phineas said, pointing his cane. We need to contact them to see if they're all right. Absolutely not, Cy said in a firm voice, crossing his arms. Cy, Meems said, maybe we should go take a look. It's not our territory. It's not our problem. You know the rules. Yeah, there were a lot of rules. They said it was because Mars was dangerous. I knew them by heart. We all did. They were impossible to miss. The grown-ups had taped them in front of the toilet in our bathroom. Settlement rules. Do not go outside without a buddy. Use the alarm bell in emergency. Keep a glow stick in your pocket. Rovers are off limits for children. Do not go beyond the flag. No contact with foreign countries, ever. And beneath the typed rules, someone, probably Vera, had added, always put the seat down on the toilet. Vera, who had never missed a chance to argue, asked, why can't we go see what it is? Because it's too dangerous, Cy said. Yeah, it's too dangerous, Albie echoed. You just say whatever Cy says, Vera snapped at him. What if someone's hurt? Phineas asked. And then everyone was talking at once, the voices getting louder and louder until I couldn't tell who was speaking. A loud whistle pierced the noise. I turned to see Salty Bill standing in the doorway wearing his apron and holding a plastic whistle. He had a kerchief tied over his head and his long gray ponytail dangled beneath. What's the ruckus? He hollered as the room fell silent. An alien ship crashed over there, I said. It was a meteorite, Cy said. Salty Bill just shook his head. I don't care if a pterodactyl flew out of a black hole and landed here. I serve breakfast in 5 minutes. It's the only meal you're going to get till lunch, he announced. And then Salty Bill turned and stomped out of the room. Everyone looked around for a minute and then followed him out. Aliens or no aliens, no one ever missed a meal on Mars.